Have you ever heard the story of the boy who vanished into the forest for 3 days and came back? Not with tears or fear, but with the eyes of a lion? No. Then listen carefully, because this is not the version of Ibrahim Traoré you'll find in the history books or the speeches. No. This is the one whispered by griots at firelight in the villages of Burkina Faso. The one the elders dare not tell aloud in the presence of strangers. The one even his enemies fear is true. Before he became a soldier, before he became a president, before he stood against the empires of the world, Ibrahim was just a boy. But not just any boy. He was the boy who spoke to lions. In a small village not marked on any map, nestled between the whispering grasses and the thick, breathing forests of the south, a child was born under a red moon. The midwives trembled as they looked up. A red moon was a sign of change, or chaos, of death, or destiny. His mother, a quiet, hard-working woman named Awa, screamed once and then silence fell. When they placed the child in her arms, the fire in the hut flickered violently, though no wind had entered. The elder midwife shook her head. "This child," she whispered, "is not ordinary." They named him Ibrahim. From the beginning he was strange. He would stare into the distance for hours, as if listening to something others could not hear. Animals followed him. Birds landed on his shoulders. He would place his hand on a goat with a broken leg, and by morning it would walk again. Children were drawn to him. Adults were wary. Some said he had the eyes of an old man. Others said he carried the spirit of an ancient warrior reborn. Then came the day of the disappearance. He was just 10. He had gone to fetch firewood in the forest. But the sun sank, and Ibrahim did not return. They searched the trails. They called his name. Nothing. Day turned to night. One night became 2. Oa could not eat. She sat at the edge of the forest, clutching his little shirt, tears carving rivers down her cheeks. On the 3rd night, a storm broke across the village. Thunder roared. Lightning cracked the sky like the anger of the ancestors. And then, a shadow emerged at the tree line. It was him, Ibrahim. But something had changed. He walked slowly, his face calm. Behind him, in the flashes of lightning, the villagers swore they saw eyes, glowing golden eyes, watching from the darkness. Like lions, he said nothing for hours. He just sat, ill, quiet. And then, just before dawn, he looked up and said, "They've spoken to me." The village priest asked, "Who spoke to you, child?" He answered, "The lions." First they laughed, said it was the fever, a shock, child's fantasy. But strange things began to happen. Ibrahim no longer feared wild animals. A panther was spotted near the village, but when it crossed paths with him, it bowed its head and walked away. He began to speak in riddles. He spoke of a dark cloud from the west, of men in suits with snake eyes, and of a great war that will not be fought with guns, but with paper and silence. Elders summoned a diviner from a faraway land. She arrived blind in both eyes. But when she touched his hand, she gasped and fell to her knees. "This boy," she said, "was sent by the lions of the spirit world. He is the voice of the forest, the shield of the land." Some believed, some feared, and some began to plot. For even as a boy, Ibrahim was dangerous. Not because he was violent, but because he saw through people. He saw the greedy chief who was stealing from the people. He saw the men who were working secretly with foreign traders, selling land and resources. And he spoke out, a child, daring to challenge men with power. They called him disrespectful, arrogant, possessed. But the people began to listen to him. Because truth carries a thunder louder than any lie. One day he stood before the village council, just 10 years old. He looked the chief in the eye and said, "If you do not stop stealing from the people, the lions will come for you." The chief laughed. 3 days later, the chief's compound was raided. Not by police, not by rebels, but by a swarm of lionesses that descended from the hills and disappeared as quickly as they came, leaving behind no blood, but every goat, every cow, every stolen grain gone. The chief fled. The people whispered, "He truly speaks to lions." As the years passed, Ibrahim grew into a quiet, focused young man. He left the village, but not before speaking one final time to his mother. She asked him, "Where are you going?" He looked at the horizon and said, "To find the fire, to fight the wind." No one knew what he meant, but the next time they saw him, he was in a uniform. He had joined the military. But the story doesn't end there. It begins again, because even in the army he was different. He didn't drink. He didn't bribe. He didn't follow cruel orders blindly. He protected the weak. He stood up for villagers during brutal operations. He reported corrupt officers. He saved civilians where others would shoot. And they hated him for it. But they couldn't stop him. 'Cause, somehow, he always survived. There were ambushes, bombings. Even one night, a secret order to assassinate him during patrol. The gun misfired. The soldier ran off into the bush, never to be seen again. Rumors began to spread in the barracks. Don't cross Traoré. His lions walk with him. And then, the final transformation came. The country was burning. Burkina Faso was bleeding from corruption, exploitation, foreign manipulation, and terrorism. Leaders came and went, puppets of bigger powers. Traoré watched, waited, listened. And then one night, under a full moon, just like the one he was born under, he stood before his men and said, "It is time." They followed him, not just because of loyalty, but because they felt something in the air. Something old, something powerful, something wild. They overthrew the government in a single swift stroke. No war, no bloodbath, because the people were already behind him. The griots say that as he walked into the presidential palace for the first time, lions were seen circling the gates. No one stopped them. No one dared. Today the world calls him controversial. They say he's anti-imperialist, that he speaks too boldly, that he's waking up too many Africans. But in the villages, the griots say, the boy who spoke to lions has grown into the lion who speaks to nations. And at night, in the sacred forests of Burkina Faso, if you listen closely, you may still hear a low rumble, growl, roar, not of a beast, but of a leader, and not just any leader, Ibrahim Traoré. Some say it's just a story, others say it's prophecy, but one thing is certain, when the lions walk, the world trembles.